We're live right now.
I knew she could do it too.
Heck yeah.
Oh, holy night.
Damn it, Joe.
The stars are brightly shining. This is the day. La 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 la.
All right, so let's talk about the new Star Wars movie. Anyway, I thought it was really crazy when
I'm not even going.
people would murder me.
I am not even going.
Is it?
I won't go see
I thought that comes out tonight at midnight.
it. Does.
It came
Comes
out earlier.
Today, actually.
It's playing
You
now.
can
Oh,
go-
really?
You can go
Yeah,
spend
I'm going
a lot of-
tomorrow.
I thought they had like the midnight showing tonight.
Probably.
I respect people that still watch Star Wars. It's just I can't.
Pretty soon.
I'll when it comes out, I'll rent it. When I know what happens, everybody
Yeah.
says it. I'll rent it and watch it. But
I'm curious to see if J.J. Abrams can redeem the. I mean, it's gonna be hard. You know, it's gotta be hard.
Lucas, those 3 movies were so classic. Those first 3 were so amazing, and then they came out with such ridiculous Disney nonsense. Like, if Jar Jar Binks was a real character, like a real life thing, I would be really cool with killing him, and then reanimating him every day and killing him again. Because that's the worst Star Wars character. How? I mean, he literally stands for everything that Star Wars wasn't supposed to be. He was literally a cartoon character that was created so you could sell merch.
Yeah.
And it was just...
That's what the Ewoks are, damn it.
Right. You know, even that last movie, I mean, man...
Apparently, in canon, what happened to him is he ended up living on the streets of Theed, and everyone hates him because of what he inadvertently did.
Right.
But the kids all seem to like him because he's goofy, but all the adults hate him.
Yeah.
And that's his life. And I think it's fitting.
Yeah.
Because that's basically reality.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that Rogue One was amazing.
Yeah.
Rogue One is my second favorite Star Wars movie ever. Literally. I mean, I liked it better than episodes 5 and 6.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I love episodes 5 and 6. I love episodes 5 and 6. But, I mean, that Rogue One was phenomenal. Phenomenal. I had you on the edge of your seat. The characters were believable. They weren't, what's the word? I mean, like Luke Skywalker is like, he's not cartoonish, but he's sort of like the original Luke Skywalker. Ha ha ha. You know, he's like bubbly.
Yeah.
You know, even Han Solo, they're bubbly. Whereas those characters were not bubbly.
No.
There was no bubbly going on. They used those 2 characters for the comedy stuff. And the rest of them were they were just dark characters.
Mm-hmm.
They were badass. That was a badass movie, man. Badass. Oh. Hey, can they message us on here right now? No.
What?
Can
On
they-
the chat room?
Yeah.
Yeah. If there's anybody in the chat, they can talk.
If there's anybody in the chat room, if you want us to sing a Christmas song in the next 5 minutes, because we're going to be going live in about 5 minutes, we'll sing it. You have
Still
to
stand by
message
saying, though, Revenge of the Sith is a good movie.
it was alright. I'm not saying they're horrible movies. They're not. They're not horrible. Like, I don't think any of them are horrible movies.
But I like Revenge of the Sith. I mean,
Yeah, it was
I think
alright.
it's quality.
I thought that Liam Neeson did a great job.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's just Hayden Christensen was just so...
Hayden Christensen wasn't in that movie.
No, which one? Who's in the second movie?
Yeah, he's bad in the second one. But
Yeah,
Liam Neeson was only in the first.
And then when the little kids are flying around on the
Pod racing. Yeah, I could have completely done without that.
It's like, yeah,
You get rid of that section, I think it's a good movie.
it's okay.
Yeah.
Well, and then see, Jar Jar Binks just destroys it for me. 'Cause every time I see that character, I just want to punch the TV.
You still want to punch him?
I want to kick him in the balls. Is what I want to do. Misa want to kick Jar Jar in the balls. Misa want to kick Jar Jar right in the junk.
You someone like me?
No, Wee's gonna kill you.
See, if this was the '80s, I have other things to say, but I've learned. I have a filter now that I didn't have 30 years ago. The filters, it works.
Yeah.
I have to put it on.
Bolivian Nachos says he should be watching The Last Jedi right now.
You are the last Jedi, Eric.
Mm-hmm.
Eric is the last Jedi.
Remember, the Last Jedi is the friends we made along the way.
Oh, Jesus. That is so painful.
The Last Jedi could have been good if they hadn't done stuff that made no freaking sense. Like, most of the story, the stuff with Rey and Kylo is interesting. The stuff with Rey and Luke is interesting. The stuff with Kylo and Luke is interesting. Everything else is just filler.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not as excited, but I get it. I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like it's awful. They're not bad movies.
Yeah.
You know, they have a couple bad characters.
Yeah.
Like I said, Hayden Christensen, that second one, when he's like, "I hate you," when he's like when he melts,
Yeah.
"I hate you." That's what you're gonna say. You know what I say when I'm like that? Somebody give me some fucking aspirin.
Anybody got any water?
Yeah. Anybody got any freaking what's it? Methadone?
I immediately regret this decision. No, it is not methadone.
What is it?
It's nothing.
Opium, whatever the hell you got. What is that stuff that they give you when you in
Opium, yeah, that would work.
You know,
Hey, Shauna, how are you?
I need like 8 pounds of that stuff now because half of my body melted away. Oh, by the way, I hate you as I melt. Shut up.
Yeah, everybody that's joining the chat, this is what we're going to start doing. We've got a sweet new loading screen, and you can hear us talk before the show starts, so you don't have to watch us sit here.
I'm Hayden Christensen, and I'm melting. I'm melting. I'm melting. Help me. Shut up, Hayden. I wanted him. I just wanted his face left at the end. Like he was in such abominable pain that the only thing left was his face. But no, they had to fix him. Turn him into Darth Vader.
You really feel strongly about all this.
Yes, Hayden Christensen. Like, I would have liked to have seen Hayden Christensen and Jar Jar Binks have a death match. Like a wrestling death match. But only in Hayden Christensen's, like, messed up state.
Yeah. Okay, we have to be somewhat sane
We have to
now.
be sane now. Hi, Coach.
Hey.
Oh, my gosh. Are you okay?
Well, we're trying a new thing. We've got kind of a preload where you can hear us talk.
Mm-hmm.
Was that Operation or?
Yeah. Oh, man.
Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it.
I still can't believe you took those down the stairs earlier today.
Are you weight bearing?
I can bear it a little.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long will it be like that?
About 2 weeks.
That's not terrible.
That's not terrible. Can I put this here?
Yeah, go for it. He'll watch it.
We'll be starting in about 2 minutes.
Yeah, we've got we've got a preload screen now where you can hear us talk, so people can hear us talk right now, but they can't see us live.
Yep.
So when we're ready to transition over to the show, all I gotta do is hit button and boom, we're live. So.
And you'll be able to see it on that television.
Yeah.
Right there.
So if Sean Reynolds has secretly been signed and you want to indicate that, you're going to have to use hand signals or something.
I put these on?
If you want to.
It'll help. It'll help.
You'll hear the music. That's
Yeah,
about
the
it.
music
But
a little bit
sometimes we have
more.
a caller.
Yeah, sometimes, I mean, for me, I'm so used to doing stuff like this with it. Or you don't have to. It's up to you. But
Yep.
And then that microphone, you may want to put it a little bit closer. How's that sound?
Sounds good to me.
Oh man,
Yep. Sounds pretty good.
Yeah, welcome to the apartment.
this is the studio. This is our studio.
Pretty good little setup.
But this is, I mean, the whole idea is to try and get, everybody that's been on, just tell everybody that the whole idea is to try and get people to get to know everybody. Like we've had supporters that are not usually part of any of the activities. We have them on. John Neese was on.
Pardon me.
Dr. Lynn,
Yep.
Brad. I mean, everybody.
Tim Malloy.
Tim Malloy was on. We had a couple of guys from the office, like Danny. A couple guys.
So I'm last to the party is what you're saying.
Well, we wanted
We've
to.
only had one player so far. That's Niall.
Right, we had Niall 2 weeks ago. We wanted to. I mean, they have the 2 vodka, like they have the barrel proof, and everybody can go on those. I mean, I know you guys have always done that, and we wanted to get other people on first to give them a chance, and then, but
Then just not to be disruptive during the season.
let me get another glass, and I guess.
Yep.
There's the bottles right there, Joe.
Oh,
Yep.
I don't know what you're
And
drinking.
help yourself if you care to.
I'm gonna sneak. It'll make a great painkiller.
Check out
Jar Jar Binks. I just found a new Christmas question.
You mentioned a call. What time do you have to be out of here?
It's a little better than I thought. I thought I had to be out here so that I could make a call at 8:30.
Mhm.
It's 9:30.
Okay.
So.
And we do a little bit of stuff on top. It's
Do whatever you gotta do.
Yeah.
This is like a variety show.
Yeah.
kind of is actually.
Wait till I get that panda suit.
Where is? Let me find.
A panda suit.
Yeah.
Don't make me wear the inflatable flamingo. I will do it. It'll knock
That was-
everything over, but I
That was
will
pretty
do
interesting. That was interesting. All right, so we're
it.
live.
Oh, my feet hurt so bad after I was wearing that thing because of the weird way you have to shuffle in it.
Can I pour myself a little?
Absolutely, please.
Here you go.
All right, got this. 65%, which is the right resolution.
I love it. You can hear the bourbon pour on
Bourbon
the
pour on
mic.
the microphone. It does make a life a lot better with the with these microphones, man. You ready? I'm ready if you're ready.
We're ready. I mean, I can hit the button right now.
You guys
I'm
ready?
not scared.
It's 7:38. I'm guessing there's some people in already.
Oh yeah, we got a few people in here.
Awesome. Okay.
All right. Do you guys hear? Is there any kind of an echo right now?
I think is it air conditioning?
No, I turned it off.
There's not much. There's like the
Yeah,
fans
it's
from the
fine.
laptop. That's about it.
Okay. All right, let's do this.
Okay. Same one.
And 5,
4.
4. Yeah. Okay. 3. We are live.
All right.
Hi.
Hello. Hi, everybody. I'm Joe,
I'm Derek.
And I'm Matt.
and we are the host of
Beats, Balls, and Bourbon.
the official video podcast of the Groove Machine, Lou City supported drumline. We are members of the Coopers, and also jump over with the Scouse's House folks every now and then. We have a great guest today, ladies and gentlemen, Coach John Hackworth. Thank you, sir, so much for doing this. We really, really appreciate it. But first, just want to say hello to everybody and let you know who everybody is. The gentleman to my right is the commander of social media, the man that steers the ship. How are you, Derek?
I'm doing good. I'm doing
Everything's
good. I hope everybody liked that loading screen.
Yes, Derek came up with a new load-up screen.
He's been working hard.
Yes, he has. He's been doing a lot of stuff, and we really appreciate that. I mean, he does a lot of good work with this stuff. The person on the 1s, 2s, and 4s.
The audio consigliere.
Yes, that would be you. Matt Owens, how are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, and I'm doing okay, I guess. It's been an interesting 72 hours,
Mm-hmm.
I think,
Yep.
to say the least. Coach, we'll get to, I can't wait to talk to you about this stuff and about everything. I've really been looking forward to having you on here. Just some announcements. Number one, we want to mention the other shows. We have Barrelproof Podcast, which is on Tuesdays, or usually Tuesdays. We have Scouse's House that we're hopefully checking out on Thursdays. I did talk to Evan. Evan and Andy are going to be leaving that show pretty soon. Well, not pretty soon, but in a while. But hopefully somebody else from Scouse's House will pick that up. And then you have Soccer City Radio on Saturday mornings. Hopefully you're watching that as well. A couple of announcements before we get to this other stuff. You all know that we're redoing the Harbor House deal for the mini marathon. Something that Katie McWhorter mentioned, who's one of the people that are doing it. You know, you don't have to do the entire mini marathon. You also have the option of doing the marathon relay, and that's 4 people. You can do as little as a 5K, and you don't have to run. So, you know, if you're interested, please, we really want to turn this into a great fundraiser. We are looking at February 22nd to do our open house there. It'll be 12 to 4. Had a meeting with the folks there, and what we're looking to do is the residents there, or the people that go there, possibly doing a banner painting of some sort. They would really love to do something like that. So to have people join us to do that and plus there's going to be an open house, there's going to be tours, we're going to be doing a show there, we're going to be talking, hopefully we have a couple great guests for that as well, so hopefully you'll be there for that. Also this Saturday, it's open house for Cooper's meeting. That will be Saturday at Hometown Pizza on Preston Highway from 7 to 9. Hopefully you'll join us. If there's anything else that you guys want to add before we start this, am I missing any announcements?
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Happy
Christmas.
New Year.
Might be time to fire up some Christmas music because we have a great surprise.
We do.
Yes, we do. Uncle Luigi.
Okay.
He found out about this.
Yeah.
He's been keeping track down in Florida.
You get those warrants settled, or do
The
we still
warrants
have-
are
okay.
well. That's why he's not here.
Oh.
He's still stuck
Okay.
in state. But but what he did do for us is that he wrote us a little. Everybody knows what's going on with the rebranding and blah blah blah. We'll get into that a little bit later. Not heavily, but a little bit.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Thank you.
Does everyone like my not at all controversial
No.
shirt?
But if you start up that Christmas music there,
I can do that.
I think
Maybe.
Coach or Uncle Luigi decided to write a little bit of a parody. He says it's a Christmas poem about the entire events of the last 72 hours. And I think it's a little, I think he stole this. Okay, he calls it "'Twas the week before freaking Christmas." So I'm going to read you what Uncle Luigi sent me. So, and this is apparently, this should encompass the last 72 hours.
I need a drink while
You may want to have one or two. Okay, here we go. Uncle Luigi's "'Twas the week before freaking Christmas." 'Twas about a week before Christmas, and all around the town, all the creatures were stirring, and they had a big frown. Their face was stuck to the screens with great care, and it seemed all at once they said, "What the hell's going on over there?" All the people, they were restless and snug in their beds. Then they saw this new logo and started bashing lumps in their heads. All the moms in their hoodies and the dad in a cap seemed to all say together, "Hey, what's up with this crap?" And all over Twitter arose such a clatter. Well, I was just sitting around thinking, hey, I wonder if Santa got any fatter. So away to my computer I flew like a flash to see the new Lou City gear and give him my cash. Now, the colors on the crest of the newly minted logo made me say, okay, this is something I could go show. What? And what to my wandering eye should appear, they changed the name on the logo and the line didn't connect. Uh-oh, there's going to be some freaking problems around here. Now my eyes, they were dotting so lively and quick. And I said to myself, is something playing a trick? So, more rapid than eagles, to Facebook I came. And I typed while I shouted, as I called the drummers by name. Oh, Kathy, oh, Kaylee, oh, Matthew, oh, Derek. Oh, the rest of you's Mamma Mia, everybody's going to be hysteric. Get away from the porch. Lean yourself against the wall. Because if you don't look hard enough, you may decide to take a great big tumble and fall. As dry leaves before the wild hurricanes fly, came the tweets that were so salty you could even hear them cry. So up through the airways, the post and the tweets flew, and I shrugged before dozing off and I said, hey, what the hell are you going to do? But then as a dream, I saw on the roof a guy that I knew holding a bottle of 100 proof. As I drew out my hand, he started climbing down, and to my doorstep, St. Brad came with a bound. He was all dressed up in purple, and from his head to his foot, and he looked a little weary from the beating the FO it just took. A bundle of new logos, ideas he flung on his back for all his supporters to pick and consider out of the pack. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry. But he gave me a weird look. I forgot to put on a shirt. Man, I'm kind of hairy. He opened up his backpack that was drawn up with a bow, with all the new ideas for the supporters he would show. And now the supporters were smile and showing their teeth, except a couple of mamalukes who won't let it go, who I'd like to strangle with a wreath. We all had a smile on our face and a laugh in our bellies, like when you get a nice prosciutto sandwich from your neighborhood deli. For the first time in over a day, I finally felt like myself. I wore a stupid grin when it was over. You know, like that elf on the shelf. With a wink and an eye and a twist of his head. Soon, St. Brad gave me to know that we had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but with new ideas went back to work, all filled with these duties we knew the FO would not shirk. And with thumbs up like Fonzie, and a sniff of his nose, he gave us a nod with the class he always shows. And he sprang to his car and he gave us a whistle. And since he has a lead foot, he took off like a freaking missile. And we all did exclaim as he drove out of sight, Merry Christmas, Lou City. Thanks for making this right. Okay. Now, not making fun of anybody when I say that.
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes.
I apologize. I hope I didn't put anybody in a weird spot by doing that. But the whole idea is...
Wait. I'm not supposed to feel like I'm in a weird spot?
No.
Can I curse on this thing?
A little bit. I don't know. It's up to you.
Holy cow.
The thing is that all I wanted to say... Now, first of all, I did want to mention that Mike Bromelo, Scouse, called me today. He wanted to say that Scouse's house has nothing but appreciation for everybody for what they've done in the last 72 hours to turn this whole deal in. I also, I talked about Monty, the Black Sheep guys. They're cool. A little bit later, there's something that Matt Dalton from the Coopers wanted me to read. I'll read that in a little bit. Everything in the last 72 hours tells me everything about what I love about being part of this deal. Is that they listened. There was, to pretend that people were not upset about that is to pretend that it didn't happen. And we're not going to do that. But what they did do was amazing. And we want to thank Brad and all the guys, and we'll talk about that later. But sorry, I hope that wasn't weird. It was weird. Was that
It
weird?
was a little weird.
I apologize.
I mean, I hope you can understand where I'm sitting.
Of course.
But I would echo what you just said. Like,
Right.
Our front office and our club cares about our supporters and you guys specifically more than we care about anything else. And
Right.
you're the heart of what we are. And I thought Brad and the front office came out with a very bold
Absolutely.
reaction. I think it was a right one.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I didn't want to spend a lot of time. That was just
takes a lot of guts to do what Brad did specifically, and we're all behind him. We're together in this.
Absolutely.
We're gonna try to make it right.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you for coming on. Do have some stuff I wanted to ask you about, basically, and all of this is just background. I mean, first of all, you were on the Scouts' House thing a couple times, and those are great. They do a great job on those things, I think. And where did you grow up? I mean, where are you from originally, and how did you get into playing soccer?
I was born and raised in Dunedin, Florida, which is just west of Tampa
Okay.
on the Florida Gulf Coast.
Mm-hmm.
And I got into to soccer because my family kind of introduced me to it.
Okay.
But at that time, I'm gonna date myself, was the mid '70s, and the NASL was the major soccer league in this country.
I remember it well.
And the Tampa Bay Rowdies, one of our now major competitors. So I grew up going to Tampa Bay Rowdy games, and like you guys, I just became a huge fan of the sport, and there was some great players on those teams. And
who was the guy from England? It was
Rodney Marsh.
Marsh, golly, I remember.
There was a couple from England. We had the club had a relationship with Queens Park Rangers at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that league was amazing, and for the American soccer fan that doesn't know it, it was truly incredible. Some of the best players in the world were in that league, and as a young, 6-7-year-old kid going to watch those games was truly amazing. It instilled that passion in me to be a lifelong fan of the game.
I was a huge Cosmos fan.
Oh, yeah?
I went to Giant Stadium for like 4 or 5 years. We used to go to games all the time. My dad's Italian, my mom's Spanish. So we said Pele, Giorgio Canaglia, all those guys. It was so amazing. And that league, that's something that
Ricky Davis,
oh my gosh, Warner Roth. I mean, go down the list. Shep Messing, the whole list of guys that were on the national team when the national team was, nobody knew. But it wasn't like today where you had, all the marketing and all the television you see constantly. You'd have to go look in the paper to see what happened if they played a game in the 80s. I mean, it was crazy. And
but Joe, like at that time, I mean, in Tampa, we were normally getting crowds in the mid 20,000.
Right.
And I remember watching the Cosmos and Pele, and the old Tampa Stadium, which is nicknamed the Sombrero, was sold out, and I was sitting in the very back row watching the game, and I believe it was in the 70,000 range of
right. Giant Stadium would get into the 7th. They'd sold out several times. I remember going to research stuff because I wrote a paper a couple of years ago about what the NASL used to do. Tampa Bay had their high average was about 28,000 for a couple of years. I mean, that's why when people talk about MLS and stuff like that this is. I mean, it's great that it's there. I'm not saying it's not, but this happened before. And then you go back to like in the Cascadia rivalry with Tampa Bay. I'm sorry, Vancouver, Portland, and Seattle. They used to draw like 60,000 at those games back in the 70s too. That was a wild rivalry.
Yeah, and so.
So the point. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go off on a.
That's how I became a fan of the game. I think my dad introduced me to it. He would watch the PBS show that was on, and I believe it was Sunday mornings. Soccer in Germany.
Oh yes.
But and I played all sports growing up.
Okay.
It was just the environment we lived in. But soccer was the sport that captured me the most, and thank goodness has led me to having a nice life as a player and coach.
So at what point do you commit to just playing soccer? I mean, is there a certain point do you remember? Or
yeah, I committed to just playing soccer really around age 16.
Okay.
Which now people would say is late. Yeah, but I don't think so.
Okay.
Really, I mean, when you're talking about being an athlete, you have to develop all kind of skills.
Okay.
And so, I mean, I think whether it was me playing basketball or playing pickup, football or playing baseball. I played baseball for a long time. These are all skills that you need to acquire, and you know, as a soccer player, you know, I'm biased. I feel like soccer players are, you know, unique athletes. They have to be very skillful, very tactical in their decision making. But the way you move your body, all the sports that I grew up playing, I think have helped me be a soccer player. And so I tend not to believe all this recent idea that you have to kind of specialize at an early age.
Oh, that's really cool. That's good because you hear all these youth programs. I still have friends back in Kearney that one of my buddies, he coaches a U8 team, and they're picking people like they're scouting kids at 8 years old. That's weird. I'm sorry. I think that's weird.
Like if you go back to guys in Kearney and you know, like that I grew up playing with,
and Miola and Harks.
Yeah.
But even before that, you know, people that get into the history of this game, and you start talking about McLean and going all the way back to O'Connor, and then Archie Stark. I mean, they had a history of massive great players from that town.
Right, but all those guys you just named, we all grew up playing multiple sports.
Okay.
And we all grew up playing more pickup soccer than
Miola was a great
soccer.
baseball player. Tony Miola was a fantastic baseball player.
Big Tones. He could do anything.
Right.
Or at least he said he could do
He
anything. I believe him.
Yeah, well, he was a great athlete, and the guy right behind him. Here's the other thing: was Sal Rosamilia was his backup keeper, who ended up playing in Fort Lauderdale a little bit. I mean, he was all over the place. It was a crazy town. So, I wanted to ask you about when you started playing professionally, because I don't know when that happened.
So I graduated college in 1992, and really there wasn't many opportunities to play professional in this country unless you played indoor soccer, really. And so at that time, my idea, I played at Wake Forest University. We were a really good team, played in the ACC against some of the guys that you just named.
Right, fantastic teams back then.
And we, you know, we're a good team. I think we were ranked as high as 3 in the country. Right. So anyway, my idea at that time was to try to pursue a career outside of soccer, but couldn't really get away from it. So we played my first professional league we played in was called the USDSL. You're gonna have to do a lot of research
on that one.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it's an early version of what the USL is now. To be fair, at that point, I think the USL was called the USISL.
Okay.
And so the team that I played for was called the Carolina Crunch, and our team was really good. Like we had the best players in the ACC. It was like an ACC All-Star team.
Okay.
But like most of those leagues, it was fledgling. I mean, it was, you know, the pay was erratic if you got paid.
Sounds like playing gigs.
That sounds very familiar.
Yeah, and you know, it led into the A League, and the last team I played for in that stretch was a team called the Carolina Dynamo.
Okay.
It was based out of Greensboro, North Carolina. So, you know, I can't claim to be a long professional, but at that time I tried to grind away as much as I could while trying to be, you know, proactive in building my coaching resume and trying to look a little farther forward than just being a soccer player.
Right, okay. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. I'm going to ask you because you experienced playing in a university at a great school. Wake Forest, Virginia back then was fantastic.
Okay.
North Carolina, I think back in the early 90s, there were really, really good schools back then.
All the ACC
schools were
phenomenal.
amazing. Clemson was another great side. That's right. I mean,
Duke, Chapel Hill, NC State, where Tab went to. When I first went into the ACC, I mean, NC State was one of the best teams in the history of college soccer. So,
So now, your experience, obviously, there's a ton of experience doing the academy thing versus the university system. And the struggles maybe that we're having a little bit trying to work that out. Because it seems like all the conversation that I see, especially on even now the women's side, is that something... What are the pluses and minuses of either? I mean, I don't know what's better. I don't know what's worse. I mean, it seems like it's a little bit of a struggle in this country to figure this out a little bit. Is it? I mean, am I wrong?
I could spend hours.
Okay. I don't want to.
I'll try to simplify it. So when I was in the U.S. residency program, was the under-17 national team, and that was based out of IMG Academy in Bradenton, Florida. And this is around 2005, 2006. And all these MLS teams had the idea to start youth programming.
Okay.
And the Soccer Federation said, what's the best way to train, young players so that they develop to their fullest? And our program that was begun, the residency program begun in 1999, was hands down the best developmental program. And so the idea is really simple. If you wanted to be an elite soccer player, you needed to train more than most youth clubs were training at that time. Most of the times there was 2 training sessions a week, and you would play and you would play multiple games on the weekends. Sometimes 2 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday. And that's really not a good model. So when we initially started the U.S. Development Academy, it was to just try to emulate what we were doing in the under-17 national team program in residency. And it's a really simple, formula. We trained 5 days a week. We played 1 day a week. We had 1 day of rest. Okay. And the games that we played, they had to be meaningful games, meaning they had to be games of
you're feeling so
that you had to have all
right?
the rhythms, the emotions of how to go out there and be your absolute best. So that if that meant we were playing against men or international teams within the rules of the game that are the FIFA rules, different from American rules of our sport, which are
that's great. The countdown.
We're the only country that has, for high school or college, or we have really crazy rules.
I don't
for
interrupt, but the first time I went to a U of L game, they started counting down because I wasn't really. I was paying attention to the game, but I wasn't paying attention to the clock. I had no idea. The first thing I noticed was the substitutions, and they're like, "Why are they taking them out so early?" Well, they're going to bring it back later, and I was like, "Okay." And then they started counting down. I'm like, "What are you?" Anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I understand what you're saying. It was very eye-opening, the difference.
That's part of it. Like in the international game, you get, like in professional game, you get 3 substitutions. And once you're out, you're out.
Right.
There's no re-entry. And so that was the idea, is that for young players to play this game and to understand it to the best of their ability, they had to be able to manage it in the right way. It's a very player-centric game in that sense. Okay. So if you're a young player and you have to know how hard you have to work, meaning how many efforts is it going to take? How do you recover? What decisions do you have to make to be able to go from the first whistle to the last whistle? Much different than if your coach is subbing you in and out of the game every 5 minutes, giving you a cup of Gatorade, giving you a pep talk, telling you what to do differently, and then putting you back in the game, which is more American-centric than what we see in a lot of other American sports.
Right.
And that is not what soccer is. It's not what football is around the world.
Right.
So that was the initial idea. Now it has evolved into being much more than that. It's now a league, if you will. And I think there's a lot of good concepts. If we would have just stuck with those basics, it probably would have been great. I think it has evolved now into being, there's a lot of different ideas, and there's a lot of people out there who say they're experts in player development.
Right.
And really we're talking about league play more than anything, and we're not talking about how young people train and how young people develop. And that's what we should, as a country and as a soccer country, trying to be able to figure out a little better.
And I think something you said before is really, really cool. You talk about, holistically speaking, an athlete focusing on soccer so super young versus what you were saying, a high school kid can still develop at 16, 17 years old, roughly? I mean, did I misinterpret that?
No, I think you got it right. I mean, for kids these days, and I mean, I've had 3 sons, and they have stuck more to soccer than anything else. That's what our family has, they've grown up in that environment. But, I mean, we try to make sure that they were good at everything, whether it was tennis, whether they played hockey in their parking lot, whatever it was. Because being an athlete means you have to acquire so many skills, and specifically to our sport of soccer, I mean, the balance and coordination and just movement that you have to be able to control your body, let alone do that and control, around ball, is incredible. So
there's, even beyond the athletic thing, the one thing that I loved about soccer as a young kid, I was a musician as a very young kid, was the artistry of it. Because there is, both sides of the brain are engaged. There's art to that. It's so beautiful when you watch people doing that, as opposed, not that I have a problem. I love NFL football. Stop. It's very militaristic almost. I mean, it really is. Stop, strategize, hit somebody, stop, do it again. As opposed to soccer. Do you think that developing soccer players with non-athletic skills is very important. I think to me it is. I mean, when you start talking about the artistry of it and developing that side of it too, because there's so much of that goes on. I mean, am I missing something there?
No, you can't have one without the other.
Okay.
It is a sport that is very science. Half of it's science and half of it is art.
Okay.
And like a musician, you need to ply your trade and develop it as much as you possibly can. But when you get to the creativity part of it, the imaginative part of it, it takes an artist and it takes an artist's brain to really understand it. And that's what some of the decision making comes out. And I've debated many coaches who I respect and some that I don't about whether you should just run a drill and say you should play from A to B and B to C. And I like the idea of, hey, I get to choose A, B, or C.
Right. That's some. There's an if and or an if or that goes on, but even within that, motion and direction matters so much. And when if you were to take the bodies off of it and just somehow make it 2-dimensional and just make them points of light, it's beautiful. There's something literally beautiful about it. When did you start coaching? You said 2000.
I really started coaching before I even left college.
Okay.
My coach was Walt Chisowitz, and that name might not ring a bell to anybody listening, but he was
Wisconsin. No. Okay.
He was the national team coach in 1980. He was the Olympic team coach in 1984 when the U.S. boycotted the Summer Olympics.
Yeah.
He started all the coaching schools in this country, and at the time, as a teenager and playing for him through my collegiate years, I mean, he was an icon in the sport in this country, and he saw in me something that said, hey, this guy can be a coach, and he kept on telling me that. And I had this idea of going off to med school, and whether it was being a doctor or a physician assistant or something, and he kept on telling me, no, you're going to be a coach. You have what it takes to be a coach. And so it's a long story, but he basically told me that I had to now start looking and recruiting when I was just at the end of my college career. He said, you have to go out and start recruiting for me. And I said, Coach, what do I have to recruit? He said, well, we're going to start a women's program at Wake Forest. Okay. And you're going to go around to these tournaments and you're going to pick the best players that you see. And I said, Coach, what am I looking for? Like, I'm 22, 23 years old, and what I did. And he's like, just if you see somebody out there, if you see a female that has special qualities, you bring that back, tell us about her. Okay. And so that's how I got started, because he put me in charge of being the club coach at Wake Forest. I became the assistant women's coach a year later. Wow. And that kind of segued into me being a full-time coach while I was still trying to play professionally.
Wow, so you're trying to do both at the same time, which I guess at the time, in order to sustain financially, you don't have much of a choice.
I wasn't making enough money playing pro, I'll tell you that.
How great would it have been, though, if you could have gone in and said, hi, I'm Dr. Hack?
That would have been nice.
You would have had to be a surgeon at that point.
Look, I was making, this is a true story, I made more money playing in the Sunday league than I did in the Saturday professional league. And the Sunday league was a mixed ethnicity league, and I played for this Mexican restaurant, and truly,
awesome.
I made more money that way than I did playing professionally.
Were there any players from back then that, when you were playing back in that if you're from, like, I'm turned 55 this year. Were there players back then that we might recognize, some of the older folks? Were there anybody?
Sure, Eddie Pope was on that team.
One of the most underrated American players ever. Gosh, I loved him.
Yeah, I mean,
Defender, badass.
Again, you go back, he played at Carolina. He's a North Carolina kid. Mm-hmm. But if you played in the ACC at that time, when I was playing, you knew everybody that was playing collegiately because you grew up playing against them at some point. Okay. And whether it was from Kearney, New Jersey, or North Carolina, or the Dallas guys, we all kind of knew who each other was, and that kind of evolved into playing against each other post-college. Again, really separate, because when you got into the men's outdoor leagues, you had half the guys that played indoor would claim some injury at the end of their indoor year, pick up workman's comp from indoor, and then go play outdoor and do the same thing from outdoor to indoor. That was just a racket that it was at that time.
Hey, you got to get paid. You know, you got to do what you got to do. Eventually, you get into professional coaching full time. Without getting to anything, whatever. I mean, what's it like walking into a stadium the first time you're coaching a Division I team? I mean, there's got to be something that just makes you go, whoa. You know?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a special feeling when I became a college coach, a head coach when I was 28 years old, so I was pretty young.
That is young.
Moved from Wake Forest, where I had been the men's assistant coach for 4 years after 1 year being the women's assistant, to being the head coach at South Florida. And college soccer is what it is, and I was there for a total of 9 years, and it was great. I then moved to being a national team coach with the under 17 as an assistant coach. And to your question, anytime you walk into an arena and you're really proud of what you're representing, and there's fans that are now walking into Slugger the last 2 years, and next year walking into the Lynn Family Stadium, it's an incredible feeling. It's not without its stress, it's not without its pressures, but I'm very privileged and fortunate to be in those positions, and I understand how important it is. I understand that you guys put that importance on it, and I just try to do the job to the best of my ability.
And you also see not just the quality of the play on the field, but the infrastructure of the pro teams just dramatically explode over the last few years. We talked about that with Niall. 5 years ago, to join a USL team, basically you drove in your car. It seems like anyway to a tryout, right? And now they're scouting. It's so much different. I mean, how parallel is the infrastructure grown even more? Is it about the same as the quality, or is it
No, it continually gets better. Mm-hmm. I went from the national team to the MLS,
right,
and then back to the national team program, and then to the USL. So I've definitely gone through the full spectrum of levels in the United States, and each has its own unique characteristics. At the end of the day, when you're talking about the evolution of the game, I mean, in just the 2 seasons I've been here, it's phenomenal, the growth of not only our club but of the league as a whole, and how our competitors are clubs that we're battling for playoff spots and eventually for trophies, that everyone's trying to raise the bar constantly.
Yeah, and it's not just the quality of the play on the field, and obviously because we're starting to see some. We talked about this the last show too. You've got Landon Donovan owning a team. Well, basically, he does everything. I think he's going to be selling peanuts too. And then you got Tim Howard, GM down in Memphis, and having national team legends at the U.S. level doing USL stuff. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, when you think about it, going back to the times when we're probably watching the same teams. I'm a little older, but I mean, I remember when they played Tampa Bay and the Cosmos. That was a great rivalry. It really was. And then going from that, and then the time where just everything disappears, and then to see it grow like this, to have that level name being involved with USL teams, I'm just amazed at it. And it's only going to get better, I think.
Yeah, well, look, I've been at the MLS. Now I've been here, and I would choose to coach in the USL. You couldn't, well, maybe you could pay me enough money.
Right.
But,
no one try, please. We like him.
Yeah, we're fine.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
To be fair, and I think Landon and Tim both recognize that too. They both have a lot of experience in the MLS, and I'm not trying to bash the MLS, but it's a different league. It's a single entity league. It's where the league owns all the players, and the pathways to trying to choose as a club how you select players is so much more complicated than the USL.
Gam and Tam and Sam and Bam. I lose track. I don't like when they do these transactions for Tam. Like they just had that with Bradley. Something happened where he was traded or he signed, and there's something happened with $300,000 of Tam or something. And I'm sitting there going, trying to explain to my cousin who I talk to regularly. He lives in Spain. He lives near Madrid. He's like, "What are you all doing? What?" And I'm like I said, I'm not trying to. There's good things about MLS. I'm not one of those guys that does that. If you make it confusing, people are going to be confused by it. I mean, you can't avoid not saying that. I mean, people in the league say that. So
yeah, it's complicated is the easiest way to put it, and it is a little convoluted, to be fair. Mm-hmm. I used to talk about it being like a game of Monopoly, and you never knew where the money was coming from, and you never knew how the money was getting spent. And while it has evolved, I'm not sure they've sorted out those pathways to how to bring players in and out of the league. Again, I'm glad it's doing so well.
Yeah,
I
me
think
too.
we're all benefiting from it.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, when you look around and you see some of the coaches that are coming from MLS experience now into the USL, or players like Landon or Tim that are now choosing to work within the USL, I think there's a reason, and it's because the game is at this level. It's a high level game. The fan bases are incredible. They're growing the game in smaller markets, and yet you have so much more control about the product that you put on the field.
Right. And I guess one thing I definitely wanted to ask you was the difference of, I mean, you've coached young kids that aren't even out of high school yet, and then you've coached guys in their 30s. And what's the difference? The challenges? Are there differences? The challenges between coaching an older person who's a professional, and then you have to relate to a younger kid. I mean, what would be are there any differences?
Yeah, there's definitely differences, but I would say that it comes down to being a teacher. And if you're a teacher, then it's just your job as a teacher to relate to your student, what you're trying to teach and how you're trying to get those messages across. I loved when I was coaching my sons, and when they were 7, 8, 9 years old. I mean, passing along some of the experience that I had as a higher level coach just meant that I was trying to get them to see things at a little higher level than maybe they could conceptualize, but I really just wanted them to have fun. And if they fell in love with playing, and like that's why I fell in love with this game, because I love it, and I enjoy it. So in every part of what I've done, whether it was coaching professionals or coaching 9-year-olds or coaching the best 16 and 17-year-olds in the country, it's with the idea of how can I take them from a place where they are and improve them, but also still being able to have fun with the game and making sure that they enjoyed it as much as they understood how much work and dedication and commitment it took to getting better.
Right, and younger kids, I think, are much more malleable, obviously, because when you're older, you know everything. And it's not the same, it's nowhere near the same. I was really involved in teaching competitive music, marching bands, drum corps. The adult groups, they knew everything. What do you mean? What I mean is what I'm telling you. Either you're going to fix it or you're not. I don't know. As opposed to kids, they're just sit there and they want to suck up information.
Well, if you're a good teacher, I think that you get that out of all of your pupils, if you will. And so I tell this story before I got here when I was a men's assistant coach, and at the time I was working for Bruce Arena.
Yeah.
And I had worked with Landon Donovan.
Really?
At when he was younger,
right.
At the under 17 level, and then now here he is. He's the star of the national team.
Right.
So we had a little bit of a relationship, but I hadn't really, And he was just coming back off of playing in a World Cup in Korea, where he was one of the stars.
Lit it up, yeah. That was amazing.
My point to this whole story is, at the end of the day, he said, "Hey, can you help me do some finishing after the session?" And so we just took some balls and we're working on some finishing, and I tried to help him find a better way to be a striker. And if in any way you can do that to an athlete at any level, it doesn't matter whether they're 9 or whether they're 29 years old, they're going to appreciate that if you can help them get better. And so I've always tried to find that way to connect to, whether it is an older player or a younger player or in between. And I think that's the key to trying to be a successful coach or teacher.
Okay, and then one thing before we do a little bit of something here, you finish when you finish a tournament with the younger kids. Is there a real emphasis on winning tournaments or development? I mean, that's always something I was wondering about. Is that
what kind of tournament?
Let's say like a national tournament. Let's say like you got the U17s in some sort of international tournament. I mean, there's still a level of development. I mean, that's just the way it works, but everybody wants to win. So I don't know if there's decisions that are forced on coaches that you're like, look, do we want to do this with this? We want to do that with that, and you have to work within that framework, or is it like, hey man, go in? I don't know how that works, and I'm just curious about it.
I think every coach has their own philosophy, and every hierarchy of whether you're with a national team and administration and there's an emphasis on winning or there's an emphasis on development. For me, I always tried to find that perfect balance between both.
Right. Okay.
So I absolutely wanted to win.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's important for player development. I mean, it's impossible to develop players without putting an emphasis on being successful.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you have to understand, especially when you're coaching young players, that the demands of a tournament play specifically. My last tournament play with the under-17 team, we were in India for the under-17 World Cup, and the first game we played, rolled out my 11 starters. The second game we played, it was 4 days later. I knew I couldn't roll out all 11 of those guys. I was going to have to give guys that were second on the depth chart a really important opportunity. And my philosophy was always that that's more about player development than it is about winning. But trying to find the balance in a tournament like that is really the key to being successful and being able to make sure those players have all the tools that they need to go forward in the game.
Yeah, and just I guess because it still has to be fun in a way, and winning is fun. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I know you've got a young kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what is that like, raising a kid versus winning versus look, son? What is that like? I mean, I don't know. I don't have kids. So I don't.
Lincoln played spring soccer last year,
Mm-hmm.
and I coached their team, which is really difficult. But so he came into it really excited about soccer.
Right.
He really wanted to play. It's really he was get up and go. And we went undefeated, and we were 8-0. We won it was like the U6 league title or whatever.
Right.
And I hate that they went undefeated. I wanted them to lose at least half their games because he hasn't even.
At 6 years old, it seems like.
Yeah, he doesn't. He's like, "Oh, this is great. We get to go to Mr. Gaddy's after the game because we won, and all this other stuff." And they never lost. And I don't feel like he developed like that mentality about what happens when you lose.
Right.
So I kind of want to put him on like a bad team and let him experience that.
That's
and that will help his development too, because he sees all different playing styles.
Yeah, and it seems
He'll get that enough, so just enjoy it while you can.
Oh, yeah.
And it seems like.
I mean, you could send them up to Cincinnati, although they might actually improve their quality.
Jeez. And like when teaching kids success and failure, it seems like for me, I mean, doing the music thing, it seems like they got sort of mushed together almost, because it became, at least in that field, it became about camaraderie and whatever. But you know what? There's a trophy. Go get it. And
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing wrong with going after a trophy. And that's the reason I was asking you that is because of the youth thing, and maybe how much of an emphasis winning becomes, and how healthy it can be. You know what I'm saying? That's really
I mean, I don't know what your experience like coaching your son was, but if you go out to the normal soccer field on a Saturday and watch a youth soccer game, it is not about performance orientation.
It's mob rule.
It's intense.
It's about winning and losing.
It's intense.
You have the story that people tell all the time of, would you yell at your kid in the middle of a piano recital, or would you just sit back and okay, he missed that note, he got that one right. Would you silently be so proud if he got through the whole thing without messing up? And that's what, honestly, soccer parents and coaches should be more like, because this is a performance-based art and skill. And so, I dread, and I had some many battles out on the youth soccer fields. I was a head coach of the Philadelphia Union, MLS head coach, and at times people didn't know who I was, kind of like in Louisville, nobody knows who I am. And, had other coaches or parents telling me I wasn't doing something right. And it's amazing, like, the craziness youth sports are in this country. So I didn't mean to get on a soapbox.
No, please. That's stuff that people need to hear.
No, everybody hears it. Nobody listens.
That's a good point.
I had parents come up to me, why are you running shooting drills? And I'm like, well, I want them to learn how to shoot. And they're like, why aren't you having them scrimmage? And I'm like, well, you just want me to, pack run them up and down the field? Like, I want to at least teach them something. But yeah, the games, even the U6 games, were like intense. What are you doing, Bobby? What are you doing? Don't go over there. I'm like, well, he's 6. Like, just let him run around. He's having fun.
He sees a butterfly. What do you want?
The first competitive drumline I taught, I had a parent come up to me, and it was all about, we would do warm-ups. Everything's just and getting kids to learn how to do that. And it was like September, and we weren't learning the show. I had a parent come up to me and say, "Why aren't you learning the show?" And me, as a young guy, being a little bit sassy, was like, "Well, why don't you go teach them?" And it was like, that was a bad response. It was a bad response, but the whole thing was like, how about just trusting me in being able to help them out? So it's just hard. It's got to be hard, and that's the reason I was just curious about all of that. Why don't we, before we talk about Louisville, why don't we have a little bit of a respite from soccer? Let's talk about Christmas. You want to talk about Christmas for a couple minutes?
Sure.
Want to fire up some music? Because I have a couple questions that I want to ask everybody.
I closed that, so give me a second here.
But I figured I have a couple. Every time we try to do a little bit of a deal and see what people think about certain things, it's fun. And so I have some Christmas questions for everybody, whatever holiday you support, by the way. But Matt's going to be. You doing all right? There you go.
Almost there. Hold on.
I'm sorry.
I'm working here.
Yeah.
I keep wanting to.
Matt, you got all the
he's in
new
charge.
branding on display, by the way.
He's the man.
I do.
Yes, he's got all of the.
Those are going to be relics one day. I'm going to sell those on
That's
eBay.
right. I'm not selling my shirt. I bought a shirt. I will never sell it. They're going to bury me that.
You remember like when you used to get the Topps error cards back in the 80s?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here we go. Some Christmas questions. Are you ready? So number one, given a choice for a Christmas present, which would you rather have? 2 front row tickets to see your favorite musician with dinner and a meet and greet, or a free weekend in Disney?
Oh, the musician, easy.
Okay.
Musician, definitely.
Musician.
Yeah, me too. Disney.
I've been there, done that.
Yeah.
This Disney weekend is also cheaper. I think I can afford that. I'm pretty sure I can't afford the musician.
Really?
Epcot sounds pretty cool.
You know what? You just said something. These concert tickets are insane. If you want that kind of thing, that kind of package, like Alice Cooper was like $800 for that.
Like that kind of thing at Louder Than Life is $1,000.
Jeez. Scale of 1 to 10. How well do you wrap gifts?
Me, a 1.
Yeah. I'm a 0.3.
You see the gift under the tree right there?
Well, that's not bad.
You tell me.
It looks like about a 6 to me. 7.
Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that.
I'm about a 4, but there's still tape on my fingers.
Do you have a favorite holiday song?
Oh man, I don't.
No. Okay. I'm listening. This one's a good one.
I like the Charlie Brown
I love
piano song. I don't know what the name of
the
it is.
Charlie Brown specials were so amazing. Man.
Whatever the opening song was to Die Hard, I'll take that one because it's a holiday movie.
Yep.
It is not. Is that the next?
It is not.
It
I was
is.
going to ask you.
It's a Christmas movie.
Is Die Hard a Christmas movie or a movie that happens at Christmas?
Both. And to answer the question about the song, Let It Snow.
Okay.
I'll take. That's my favorite Christmas song. But it's,
It's okay. What do you think of? Are you a Die Hard? I don't think it's a Christmas movie at all. It's a movie that happens at Christmas. But
Yeah, I agree with you.
yeah, I
But,
don't know.
I mean, I was young when that movie was
It's a good
coming
movie.
out. A great movie.
Yeah.
Not sure I associated it with all the things that.
Hey.
Yeah, right. When I think of a Christmas movie, I think
household.
people.
It's a-
Right.
it's a
I
good
don't
wholesome-
think
it's a
like
good
when I
wholesome
think of a
Christmas
Christmas movie, I don't think about shooting people. I mean, that's not a holiday movie.
If the spirit of Christmas is not defenestrating Alan Rickman, I don't know what is.
Okay, that's fair. If your Christmas present was a kick around with any player that's ever lived, who would it be?
ooh, somebody. See, I've got plenty, so skip me.
Okay.
How do you answer that?
For me-
Wayne Rooney.
For
I've
me,
always been a Rooney fan.
Giorgio Canaglia. I always wanted to meet Giorgio Canaglia. I loved him. He was a striker with the Cosmos.
Mm-hmm.
He was such a character. Oh, he was such a character. What do you think?
Johan Cruyff.
Wow. See, that's another great one of the 5 greatest ever.
He
no
played.
doubt.
He played for the Washington
Right,
Diplomats.
that's right.
So I got to see him play in Tampa Stadium. But he's truly, one of the.
What a character.
The way he thought about the game was incredible, and he changed so many players and coaches for so many years. So, wish I had some time to pick his brain a little
He
bit.
played one game for the Cosmos. He wore it once.
I packed him on FIFA 20 the other night.
Did you really?
Yeah, I was really excited.
I don't know what that means, but I'm happy for you.
You open up packs. It's like Pokemon cards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Cruyff's on my team now. So
Okay.
my team's awesome.
This,
I got
I'm
one.
sorry. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Hector Marinero.
Okay.
You ever heard that name? Have you heard that name?
Mhm.
So Hector Marinero played for the Cleveland Crunch. I played for the Cleveland Crunch for about 6 weeks. And it hurt. But Hector, I never got to play with him, but I got to hang out with him. But I always wanted to have a kick around with him, and that never happened.
Every time I played for the Carolina Crunch, and every time that I would say I played for the Crunch, people would say, "Hey, you played
For
the
Cleveland,
Crunch."
yeah.
Well, they were one of the brands. Baltimore, too. Didn't Baltimore?
The Baltimore Blast is still
Baltimore
around.
Blast.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember.
Cleveland Crunch back in the day were one of the main names that you heard.
And it was bizarre because when the game went indoor in the mid-'80s, early 80s, the Cosmos tried to do 1 year as an indoor team. It was so weird going to it was called Byrne Arena back then. And you'd go and see all these and be like, it's hockey. Yeah, it was so weird. It was just, it was very strange.
I was in the dying years of brutal indoor soccer, and I paid for it.
2 more. Question. If you could describe a great gift that you once got for the holidays. Nintendo 64!
No, I remember when my mom got me the Super Nintendo, and it had a Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past.
Legend of Zelda.
And I will never
Still play
forget.
that.
Oh my god, I was so hyped, and I'll
Golden
never
Age.
forget spending many sleepless nights.
Golden Age.
Yeah, many sleepless nights playing Link to the Past all night.
What do you think?
Most of my Christmas stuff's pretty like run of the mill. I mean, clothes,
Okay.
sometimes candy, sometimes like a video game. But the most memorable one was Arkanoid. I don't remember.
Oh, I love that game. I was great at that game. I used to be able to finish it in college. I would blow off college
kidding?
classes. I would finish it.
I was
In
terrible
college,
at it.
I was a music major in college. We didn't go to
Yeah.
school. We never went to class. Coach, did you have anything that you remember?
All right, and sticking with the game thing, when I got Atari, that was fun. But I would say the first bike my mom and dad got me, like I love cycling, so that was incredible because it kind of set me free in the world. And then my wife got me a surfboard, which in the later part of my life, surfing became a passion of mine.
Wow.
So
That's
those
awesome.
just kind of stick out in my mind.
I remember getting my favorite toy that I ever got when I was a kid. My mom and dad got me Evel Knievel. It was this thing that you would wind up.
Yeah, I had the exact same. I almost answered that.
Did you really?
Yeah, I
that
love
was the
thing.
coolest thing. You would wind it up. It was big. And you would wind it up and you would stop it. The thing would just take off.
Take off.
I had tears in
You
my eyes.
jump
when I
it
got that.
over everything
Yeah,
you
yeah.
possibly could. So did I.
And we had that, and then what we would do is that we had my brother was a big G.I. Joe kid, and we'd have, like, there was a G.I. Joe van, and I would try to run the Evel Knievel bike over the van.
Nice.
We created some great moments. But anyway, that was just some Christmas questions.
Yep.
One more. If Santa showed up at your door and said, I need you to help me out tonight, would you A, immediately do it, 2, ask him questions before you did it, or 3, say no?
I'd help Santa, no questions asked.
Take over for Santa?
Yeah.
Like, okay.
The mall Santa said that I'm in line for his job, so
Hey.
I mean, I'm
There's
good.
a little difference between being a mall Santa and a Santa Santa.
Yeah. That would be one of the questions I would ask. I would definitely ask a couple questions first. Are you a mall Santa? Is meth involved?
Oh,
It seems like a lot of work.
as you're looking for the van.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think, Coach?
Definitely.
Yeah, there's something. One shot at it,
I got Santa's back, man.
man.
Yeah.
Anyway, there you go. Just some Christmas stuff to break up the drill Coach Hackworth with questions. I'm sorry, Coach. I hope you don't mind us doing this.
Unfortunately, I have a couple of questions I need to ask Coach.
Do it.
So we get questions in chat quite a bit, and I like to kind of follow up and see what you think. But so Eric Beaumonte from Black Sheep fame, he wants to know, and I'm curious as well. And I know you can't name drop people, but are you expecting to bring back anyone from the first tryout for a second tryout?
Potentially.
Okay.
Potentially.
So you got some good stuff going on in the first one.
Yeah, there were some really good players in that first tryout. We talk about the evolution of the game and of the USL Championship, and it's harder and harder to come to an open tryout and make a team, especially a team the quality of ours. But at the end of the day, there were some good players there, and now Mario Sanchez is doing such a great job for us building. Kind
That
of
was
like
my next question.
pathway to the pro,
To
if
kind
you
of
will.
to build on that, like I'm assuming that you could use those tryouts as like a breeding ground or something that you can filter down into U23.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a U23 program now, and that's going to be so important. And so I'm so excited to see Mario kind of grow that. And some of those players that were at that tryout fit that age range and have a ton of potential, and they just need an opportunity.
Do you have any like local college talent? Because I got some of my boys from Spalding were supposed to come out there, and if you weren't there, I'm gonna find you. Cordell.
We had some local talent come out.
Awesome.
We had some kids that are from Louisville and went off to play college and other places come back. So, and we had one young man I can think of didn't play college soccer at all.
Really?
He's still 22 years old and playing the sport in a different kind of culture than maybe the organized and collegiate route, but certainly very talented.
And we can say without a doubt that next month Mario Sanchez has agreed to do a show here. We're going to do it specifically all on youth talent. The whole thing is going to be about kids, and he's graciously agreed to come on and do that. That'll be a lot of fun. Just to talk about young kids and
I would say that Mario is one of the best people and coaches in the country that I've had the privilege to work with for a long time. We were both working the national team programs a long time
I'm really
ago.
looking forward to it.
But he is such a wonderful resource for our community because he has really tried to dive deep into our community, but for our club going forward as we build out our under 23 and our youth program. So blessed to have him.
Yeah, and that's where I was. It's just when people mention, when you talk to the front office, anybody that's been on here, you mention his name, everybody's face lights up. He just seems like I can't wait to have him on here. I really can't.
And I got Cornell Hilliard is he's good to go for that show.
Mm-hmm. So we'll have some kids on here and they can talk about what the youth thing in Louisville is all about right now. So that's gonna be really, really fun. I can't wait to do that. First day in Louisville, what's that like? I mean, I remember the story because didn't you come over from the tournament you just mentioned? Wasn't that the one you came from in India, or no? Was it different?
I was in a tournament in Costa Rica.
Okay.
And U.S. Soccer just wouldn't. I got hired, and U.S. Soccer wouldn't let me out of going on that trip. So I flew back from Costa Rica and drove straight from Atlanta, Georgia, up to here. And I believe in that first day, the first thing I did was I had to go to a press conference, and then I had to go to a radio show with Howie Lindsay.
Okay.
So
Howie's cool.
it was a lot in that first day.
It seems like that seems so overwhelming. It was such a whirlwind. It seemed like, anyway, I mean, to us it did.
It was a whirlwind. I had a wonderful, I was staying at the A-Loft, and whether it was you guys or the other supporters, I mean, I was delivered this basket of beautiful gifts, and mostly it was really good bourbon.
Yeah.
And, we have some of that around here.
That was my initial introduction, and what a wonderful introduction, because I was a little lonely sitting on the 7th floor of the A-Loft, but that bourbon kept me nice and warm.
What's it like meeting players that when you first start coaching? I mean, which you've done several times. What is that? What is that like? I mean, how do you prepare for that? Do you prepare for? I mean, do you scout the player before you talk to them? How does that work?
Yeah, you try to do your research and try to have some knowledge of what they're like as a player and a person. But really, I think part of being a professional coach is building it. Honestly, I shouldn't say it. Part of being a coach at any level is building relationships. And, I think the first player I met here was Luke Spencer. And in a short amount of time, you try to connect. And the more you can connect, the more you start to build a relationship and trust and communication. And that's really what, with anybody I try to coach, I try to do.
And it seems anybody that coaches or teaches, the biggest struggle I've always ran into, you could be a classroom teacher, it doesn't matter, is maintaining that professional, the distance. There's a distance because if you're passionate about what you do, you love the people that you work with. But there's still a mentor-student thing, right? I mean...
Well, I think the deeper you go into a relationship, the more you develop an ability to go farther and farther. Mm-hmm. And knowing where that line is at all times is really important, as you're mentioning. But the more you can build a relationship, the farther I think you get to take that.
Yeah, right. The first match, I don't remember your first match that you coached. Was that the
Nashville?
It was the Nashville thing. So walking out with the players then, that must have been.
Yeah, it was
A
great.
little nervy.
It was it was a wonderful experience. I'm not gonna lie, my first couple games here were tough. You know, I don't know exactly what our record was, but we weren't flying, and we got it going on. I think when we went on the road, we played on the road. First 2 games on the road were at Charlotte and then at Richmond, and that's where I think we were on the road for those 2 trips. A lot of time in the bus, and that's where we kind of really started to gel and develop.
And I don't think, and I think what I'm saying here is, I don't think I was speaking as a supporter, we were cool. I mean, we knew that this was a major adjustment. It was because
you guys were really cool when we were losing to Toronto early in that stage, and I think we were losing 4-1 at the end of the game. And I was like, "Oh man, I'm gonna get crushed walking off this field."
I remember that.
Most of the fans were fantastic.
Cool.
Not so much after the game and some of the social media
right.
stuff.
Well,
Don't read that. Just don't.
You mean people were negative on social media?
Are you kidding me? Yeah,
never happened.
I think that's what social media is about half the time.
Oh my gosh.
I remember that my buddies that have some of my oldest friends that I grew up playing pickup soccer with, in my childhood, they put the hashtag Hack City, and then after that game, some of our supporters had a hashtag that said Hack Out, and I was like, well,
I tried to push
normal.
Hack Attack.
But I came from Philly. I was in Philly for 6 years as a coach, and that is a tough place.
That is
to
the
be.
worst. As a New Jersey Giants fan, as a Giants fan, and growing up as a Devils fan, and I'm sorry because I know there's a couple of guys from Philadelphia that are watching this tonight. They're Bethlehem Steel fans. Philadelphia fans are the worst. I'm sorry. No comment needed. I'm sorry. I'm speaking personally.
They're the best.
They're the best
worst.
and the worst.
And
I can't argue that.
When I was cheered there,
Golly,
there
they're
was
tough.
nothing louder. And when I was booed, and a lot worse than that.
They are.
So,
I caught a snowball right here in 1987, and going to I don't think they were vets anymore. And I was just wearing a Giants jersey, and I was hanging out with guys that had Philly jerseys on.
Did it knock your hair off?
Next question.
The one good thing you can say about Philly fans, you never have to wonder what they think. They will let you know.
They threw ice balls at Santa.
well, look, I would tell all the Philly guys at the Bethlehem Steel, I was part of that organization for a long time, and the coach of the Steel was one of my assistants at Philly, so I have I'm proud of what they've done there and how they've evolved that club over time.
So I'm sneaking into the whole thing, mentioning Philly. They just rebranded Bethlehem Steel as Philadelphia Union 2. Unique challenges of coaching a 2-team versus an independent team.
Yeah, really very different jobs, if you will. And so your job, and it depends, every club has their own idea of what those teams should be. I think you look at Bethlehem Steel right now, and they have changed their idea of what they wanted to do. Previously, they wanted Bethlehem Steel to be the reserve team, to be a developmental arm and a pathway for their young players, but also to combine some of their first-team players to come down. And now they're moving to a model which is, very much a younger model.
Okay.
So you look at New York Red Bull. I think they're the kind of club that have done the best of both worlds. Used a lot of youth players, but a lot of experienced players, and then kind of try to grow them together. And that's a really good way to do it. And in my humble opinion, put a young player with some veterans. You can be the greatest coach in the world, but it's so valuable to have players around you that can teach you something, because unless you can kind of see what that player at a higher level is doing, that's when you really pick up some incredible, valuable tools to your.
And that's interesting because I was reading something over the summer. Was it Leipzig? The Red Bulls? Their director literally said that our entire goal through the entire system is for the top team. That includes the Red Bulls, and that's one of the weird, one of the unique relationship things that are starting to develop in this country, is that there is some untapped potential of building partnerships with international sides. We saw that with recently over in California. I would think that's pretty exciting. I don't know. I mean, I don't know anything about anything with that, but it's when you start talking about building relationships with like the U23, having our own U23 deal. and knowing that you had the experience doing the U17 thing, that's got to be exciting. I have to assume that because it's something that you've done before, and it's so new, and I love new stuff, doing stuff like that. It's got to be crazy.
Yeah, it is. It's especially. I mean, I personally think that when you're doing it within one club and you're in one community in one place, it's a little simpler, and sometimes being simpler and a little smaller versus having the mothership be in Europe and you're a club in America trying to meet certain criteria and values. That's always hard. That's probably the biggest difference between a 2-team, an MLS 2 team, and a standalone USL team. With my job, our job is to be the best team we can and to win. Yeah, absolutely. For those 2 teams, their job is to develop players, use whatever players the first team staff send them, and that's ever changing. So it's much more complicated.
And you mentioned Bethlehem Steel. I remember, I forget who it was. I went to one of the Bethlehem game in Bethlehem a couple of years ago. Maybe it was Maurice Adu who was
No idea.
Yeah, he was recovering from an injury.
Yep.
And they gave him 30 minutes of just to see that he was okay. And you saw, I don't want to say disorganized, but the cohesiveness wasn't there. We scored 2 goals on it, I think, in the first 30 minutes. And then they moved him out, and then they put in their regular striker at the time. And all of a sudden, the entire, I don't remember if it was Chambers or whoever it was, but whoever they subbed in, but all of a sudden it became a game that you're used to seeing in USL, which is a very competitive game. And like I said, I guess it's kind of good that you don't have to worry about that.
Well, I think if you look at any of those coaches who coach those teams, they have the same ambitions as we do. They want to, and some of their ownership groups expect them to win. And yet it's hard to win when you're bringing players like Mo from injury and trying to get him 30 minutes of just,
running
game
around.
minutes.
Right.
And really at the same time be competitive, especially against a team like Louisville. So it's a big challenge for those teams, and will continue to be. And there's a lot of debate about which is the right philosophy. At the end of the day, every club has their own agendas and try to meet that.
How do you like living out here?
Love it.
It's a cool town. I mean, I'm from outside too, so
it is a really cool town. I would say, I'm a Southern boy in my roots from Florida. I spent 10 years in North Carolina, and I really feel like this place is a special place. Really cool people. It starts with that. Really cool culture. Great food. Great.
The restaurant scene out here is unbelievable.
It's incredible.
I never, when I first moved out here from New York City, I was like, there's so many restaurants.
I gotta take you to New Wave Burritos, man.
Yeah, man.
Yep. That's
But then the park system here and just the way people, I fell in love with Seneca and Cherokee Park on my interview here.
Aside from wild driving presidents.
What's that?
Aside from wild driving team presidents.
That was interesting, but
we had John Neese on here, and he told us a little bit about. So if you can go back, you're part of the interview process. How much fun it was, what it was like. It seemed like there was, it was an interview process, but at the same time, it's based on what John was saying that it seemed like there was something clicked pretty. There was chemistry, whatever the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope so.
He sure seemed to see that.
They certainly went, and looked at a lot of candidates from near and far, and. But when, I think we would both say it was a right fit for both of us, and thank goodness, knock on wood, it continues to be the right fit.
Absolutely.
We're growing that and developing. Our club is growing in so many ways, as your little poem alluded to at the start. So we have a lot of growth, and sometimes that growth means we have a lot of challenges. But we're such a good group of people to work with, and I think we have so many positives. Going forward, that I'm excited about that.
What was the most? I've got to ask you this. What was the most? I got to ask you 2 things. What was the most unique challenge about playing on a baseball field? I mean, there's got to be several, and I know that you have to be thankful. I know the players are the ones that we've had and we talked to. We're glad. Everybody's glad that we're not there anymore. What was, like, tactically speaking? I mean, you've got to make adjustments. I mean, there's got to be something mathematically that you have to deal with. What would that be? Is there one?
Really, it's time and space on a baseball field because it's not a big enough field for men to play on.
Right.
And the first time that I had ever really coached on a baseball field, and I've been coaching for a long time was when I coached against Nashville here. And it took me a while to try to figure out what that time and space was for our team, because I had to adjust. And eventually, I think we figured it out together. But it's not easy. And there are other venues now. A lot of USL championship games are played on baseball fields, and so that is a big challenge in this league.
Did the guys on the team? This is kind of a funny question to me, but did they go and buy like different cleats to play on our field? Because when I was younger and I knew what kind of surface we would be playing on, like I feel like you could get an advantage over other teams if the guys on the team were like, hey, you should wear these cleats because you're gonna hit the running track and you need these. Like that's what I think of stuff like that.
I would just tell you to watch, if you go back and watch some games from earlier this year, look at Ben Luntz, all right? Okay. And when the coin toss is going on, whether it's Paulo or Speedy, whoever our captain was, when they give the signal which goal we were defending, Ben Holzman would have to run in with a different pair of shoes.
I knew it.
Really?
I knew it.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, because that one side of the field is
really
so slick.
It is really an interesting, and that happens a lot.
Well, because you could see, like, some of the opposing teams, their goalkeeper would come out, and they would have a really hard time back there. And I'm like, oh, this guy's going to get scored on, like, every game.
Right. I forget who was doing that last year, but we had my first season here, we had a goal, I think it was the goalie from Indy, who a couple
Pickens?
times...
Is that Pickens? No, he's in Tennessee. He's in Nashville.
It might have been Evan Newton. I'm not sure it was Evan. It might have been, but... My point being that goalie had figured out, and he did the same thing.
Right. So you mentioned something I'm going to go back to. You talked about developing time and space. When you're doing show development on a field, how do you develop negative? It is 8:48.
All right.
Are we okay?
I got to get out of here soon.
Okay, sure. I forget about that.
Thank you. You've been really generous with your time.
But yeah, I appreciate that. Just I guess one more question is the new stadium. Is there something that, as a supporter, we look at the new stadium, we're like, wow, what advantage does that give you that we might not notice, other than it's a nice new stadium? What's the advantage?
It would be the same answer I gave you about Slugger, is that time and space is what any good team is trying to exploit to their advantage, both when you have the ball and when you don't have it. And so our field the surface is incredible. The sight lines for the spectators are amazing, but for the players and for the coaches, we get to now have what I would consider a proper surface and a proper space to play on, and that being that the field be the length and width gives us, in the way that we play, really I think it'll be a big advantage to us. And not to say that it's easy, it's actually going to be in some ways harder.
Right.
Magnus, the first time we walked out on that field, Magnus is like, Coach, I know what you're going to require of me. And I said, yeah, Magnus, what's that? He's like, a lot of running. And I said, you're damn right, Magnus. You're damn right. But, that's it really should be something that we play to our advantage, and that, our guys are the best in the business at being well prepared for what they do. And so if we, as a group, train to play on that space and utilize it in the right way, really looking forward to the possibilities.
Yeah. So, if you got to go, I'm sorry. I don't
That's all right. I do have to go.
All right. But
probably got to close this up. I have a recruiting call.
But thank you so much. I'm going to personally apologize for reading that poem.
No, you don't have to.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I hope you. I didn't. I would never do anything to make any.
I was just making fun anyway.
Okay,
but
okay,
it is.
Okay.
It's contentious, and we're all part of this crazy process.
So please accept my apologies, regardless of whether I would never do that. And
it's unnecessary.
I also want to say personally, I have nothing but admiration for you personally, the way you stepped in on what you had to do, and how you developed this thing. We've been blessed. We've had two great coaches.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I hope that, for the next 38 years or 40 years, you're the guy here. And I mean that, sir. I wouldn't say it I'm not.
I appreciate that. That's my plan. I keep telling everyone I'm not leaving unless they kick me out. So, and I would, give James O'Connor a huge shout out, because I think he did such an excellent job setting this up that the biggest challenge I had coming here was filling some amazingly big shoes, and thankful with the work of the players. We were obviously able to have some success early on, And we look to continue that because that's what we all expect.
So I hope you enjoyed this. I mean,
I did.
And hopefully,
did.
you'll do this again someday with us. When we, I hope.
Absolutely.
Coach, thank you so much.
All right,
I want to
thank
keep
you guys.
and we're going to keep
Thank you.
doing our thing here. And be safe on the
All
way
right,
out.
You too. Have wonderful holidays.
All
Thank
right.
you, too.
Thanks, Coach. Coach John Hackworth was awesome. Thank you so much, sir. Be safe on the way.
I'm sorry we didn't win that game for you.
No, please just keep doing what you're doing, huh?
Yep.
It's pretty amazing, like I was saying, Matt, that to have two coaches the way we've had it is we don't know how lucky we sometimes. I mean, I think our fan base is generally starting to get used to understanding how blessed we are to have what we've had, but it's still pretty amazing, right? I mean,
I think first of all, starting with James, if he didn't build that kind of team with that kind of quality of character during the search for a coach, we would not have been able to hold it together because that's a lot of his legacy. And then we found a guy like Coach Hackworth who can immediately step in, build those relationships with people, understand what needs to be done, and control that transition and get everything he possibly could out of the team.
Yeah, and to you're literally trying to impose your not will's not the right word, but your what you believe is the right culture into a culture that's already been developed. That's insanely difficult. It's not like you're replacing a coach. Like, I'm a Giants fan, okay? Schumer is gone at the end of the year, and somebody's going to be coming in to replace the culture and create a new culture. How the hell do you come in creating a new culture when you've got a winning culture already? I mean, that's insanely difficult. I
think the only answer is pretty much what he did. You don't. You
just
find your place in that culture, find a way to help the people improve what they still have opportunities to improve on, and that's exactly what he did.
Right. So now the one thing we did want to get into for a little while is now that the coach is gone, we didn't. I feel like an idiot.
And Derek has abandoned us.
And Derek has ran away doing kid things. Lincoln, God bless him. The kid's a great kid. His father's kind of a. You want to sit down? You want to talk with us? Are you busy?
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about you.
We're making fun of you.
Talking about you.
What did I do?
Let's talk a little bit
What
about
didn't you do?
Let's talk about the badge deal. I mean, it's time to do that. The only reason we're going to get into it is because they've done a redo. The three of us messaged each other, and we all agreed. Tell me if I'm wrong. And if I'm wrong, that we were like, man, maybe we should lay off of this until it's This is going back
I didn't want to put Coach on the spot.
Right, and then but they resolved it in a manner that I feel was as professional and as awesome as you could possibly be.
Why do we suddenly sound different?
Because we shut down
because that microphone echoes.
I have to get my fourth mic in. So, what do you think, man? The way they handled the rebranding. Not only forget the rebranding for a second. Look. I think we can all say that the rebranding did not work out well. I mean, we could sit here and we could pick, and we can do the chicken peck thing all day long on what we didn't like about it. Tell me about what you thought about how they handled it afterwards.
Afterwards?
Yeah, after the reset. After this morning.
I think that they're taking all the right steps in all the right directions, and they're doing their best PR that they possibly can right now, and that's really all. That's all you can do. And it looks like I'd say 90% of the people have rallied behind Brad's announcement, and anybody else from the front office that has talked about it. With the exception of a few, but hey Twitter.
And if I could, Matt, before I ask you, Matt Dalton, who's the president of the Cougars, wanted me to read this, so I'm going to read it as the representative. And by the way, Matt's going to be leaving as president. Matt, you've done a fantastic job.
Here.
Matt Dalton was a fantastic president. He's been on here a couple times. He's a wonderful guy, and I really sincerely mean that, pal. You've done a fantastic job here, and keep being an amazing capo, and just keep being an amazing guy. And if you need music, if you ever get married, I'll do it for you. Here we go. This is from, we are unequivocally, as an organization, fully behind and proud of the FO. They made a measured, courageous, and appropriate decision. The club has been open, honest, and considerate partners for the fan base. I can't imagine you can find a more accommodating FO anywhere in the country on this level or above. And I can't argue. With that. Look, people are going to make mistakes. It's fair to say now, after all, some of us were willing to roll with it. I was willing to roll with it. I didn't say I liked it that much. I left it as a meh. I love the new colors. Mm-hmm. I do. The second I saw the gold was gone, I was good with it.
Yeah.
gold is a hard color to deal with on uniforms. It really is. It's one of the hardest color, if not the hardest color.
The old logo in general was very hard to deal with.
It was busy.
From
those
a
tiny windows.
Yeah, from a reproduction perspective.
And then,
Like if you needed like oh man, what do you call it? Like a threaded badge,
right?
Where like an embroidered.
Oh, it was impossible.
Yeah, it was. Yep. You couldn't do it, and that's like this stuff. These are all iron-on patches that they put on these things. These are not.
Right.
Right. That thing you could. I mean, boom! That's easily reproduced on a shirt or anything through thread, and
Yep.
So, what do you think, buddy? I didn't mean to.
Overall, I like it. I mean, this corner is just. It's a poor decision, and the gray does nothing for me. I'd just like to see purple, black, and white. Otherwise, I think this is good. I mean, my Twitter handle is Lou City Sting. I've always liked the term Lou City. I think it's fine.
Right, and
some people don't care for that, and whatever.
Here's the reason now, the color schemes. I'm good with the color scheme. I was good with this. If they keep this and do something else with it, I'll be okay with it. Now, what I always thought was the two things was the disconnect of the horizontal line or whatever that line is, this angular line. That's strong.
That is not a horizontal.
No, it's not horizontal. It's not. Well, I keep drinking. It'll be.
It's horizontal if you turn it 45 degrees.
You'll be diagonal.
Yeah. Here's the thing is that, and this is going to sound silly, but folks, if you have a little bit of OCD going on like I do, and I'm not saying that legit. I mean, I've told people, I've been very open about some of the issues that I've dealt with in my life. That will break you. This will be like, I can't see, because you'll constantly be like, what are you doing? Why can't, it's like, you like, if you go to a cat like me and count to 9 and don't count to 10, I may hit you. I won't. But it's, the second thing is, but the thing that I really didn't like, and I said it, is that a slang for the name of a team I struggled with. I know you didn't. I mean, it's but when, because now you got to come up with a slang for the slang. I wanted them to, Louisville City FC, even though when the name came out originally, I was like, that's just bleh. Well, it's the name of the team, and I like it now. Mm-hmm. I don't know what you guys think about it. Go ahead. I mean, say what you want about that.
I don't know. I've liked it from the beginning. I've never really had a problem with it, so. I can't think of really anything insightful to say. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Is there anything going on social media and anything that people are asking or talking about?
Not really. No, there's not a whole lot of mentions on in the chat or anything. I'm sure that Twitter is an absolute nightmare right now. But
right.
Hey,
and look, and I respect, and I
Twitter.
Yeah, I totally respect that a lot of people had a lot of problems with it, and you're welcome to do that. And I had a little bit of a problem with it too. So here's the point: either move on. Or don't. I mean, if you want to be one of these people that, man, I'm afraid to even say this, but I'm going to say it. If you make a choice to be constantly negative about anything, you're going to get attention. But, I mean, the kind of attention that you're going to get, maybe that's what you crave. But how the F do you wake up in the morning? I'm sorry. If there's anybody that's going to watch this that feels this, that is one of those cats, and I'm not calling anybody out. You do what you want to do. Do whatever you want to do. If you want to be negative all the time, and if you want to find something wrong with everything, do it. Me personally, how do you live life like this? I don't know.
I couldn't do it. I don't know.
I
choose not to be negative.
I have very strong feelings just from a design perspective from the whole thing.
Right, I understand.
That I made very.
Right, I mean,
I was very open about it.
Speak, man. I mean, you want to talk about it, so do it.
I've always been very, very against people hiring marketing firms to do their branding, and the Columbus Crew, they went and it was a small group that did their branding when they rebranded from the construction guys. And here it's something that I really want to approach and something that we can compare this whole thing to. Mm-hmm. So the Charlestown logo.
Yep.
Design evolves. Graphic design evolves. It's like, the 80s. Look at the furniture that we had. Hi.
Wait a second before we finish this thought.
Okay.
Hi, Lincoln. Here.
Can we pause for just a second?
Yeah, go.
I need those. You want to say hi to everybody, Link?
Like, how you doing, pal? Doing all right?
Yep, doing all right.
Okay. Please continue.
Okay. You're good. Start getting ready for bed, okay?
Where my water is? I don't know where it is.
We're having a young man, we need my water moment.
Your water bottle, is it on your backpack?
I never take it.
So.
Okay. 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 So let's talk about the Charlestown logo. Design evolves. It's, we had really wild looking furniture back in the 80s, did we not? There was a lot of cashmere. Yep. There was a lot of, green carpets and all kinds of stuff. Well, design evolves just like styles and clothing and furniture and everything else that we go throughout the years. And, design is different now. It's much more different than it was 5 years ago when the original logo was created. The guys from Charlestown hired one guy. They hired Matthew Wolf, he's not well known, but he has designed a lot of very to the point, very specific, stylish soccer logos, and Charlestown is one of those. Right. And he did it because he understands the way that things are designed now. Okay. He understands what people want and what they're looking at, and he understands what's now and in with the times. And that's the whole thing with a new logo, is once that comes out, it's going to be here for a long time. There's no team out there that's going to rebrand every 5 years or whatever. In reality, and
if they do, you know what? If they do, they've got problems. If they're rebranding, there's something else going on far beyond
new ownership. Everything.
There's big issues with money or whatever in the community.
So ultimately, and somebody, and forgive me if you watch this, if somebody said this on Twitter, your logo you need to have a logo that's good enough from the beginning that you never have to rebrand. Right. There's so many logos out there. There's people that are still using the same logos in the EPL that they've been using for just dozens and dozens of years. And I don't think that you need to have one guy come in and just run the show, and design your logo and say, hey, we're done. And that's, I think a lot of creativity gets lost in these marketing company board meetings. You go in there and you're in there with 12 people and you're all having conflicting ideas, and you all have to come to some sort of an agreement, and then you do a draft, and then the people that hired you don't like it, and then you do another draft, and then you go back to the boardroom and you talk some more. Eventually everybody gets sick of it. Right. And but that's what I'm saying. Like I would prefer that you take local talent and you sign them up and maybe put your local talent with 2 other people that are very skilled. Okay. And I said this on another show, like college students. Right. They've got ringers. U of L's I know that they've got some ringers in their graphic design program that can do this logo, and it's beneficial for them to do it, and they could do something very stylish and unique, and that's permanent. That's with them. That goes in their portfolio. That's not a marketing firm. It's not the marketing firm's portfolio. That's their portfolio. And I will stick behind that for as long as I live, as being a designer. Right. And I appreciate that a lot of people are coming out now and they're kind of, hey, check out this logo. It's pretty cool. Some of them, and this is the design community, some of them are really bad, and some people won't think that they're very bad, but they're very bad. And I only say that because I've watched graphic design evolve, and I think it's great that people are designing their own stuff and that they're showing people, hey, this is what we could have. But ultimately you have to find somebody that has been doing this for a long time. They know what you need, and they know what it needs to look like as design evolves again. But one guy did Charlestown's logo. If you like Charlestown's logo, that's one guy. That's not a team of guys in a boardroom. I liked this logo. My initial reaction was like, that looks pretty cool. And then the designer in me kind of went like this, and I started looking at it, and I'm like, oh.
It's kind of what I did. It's pretty much what I did.
I'm like, there's a gap in between Lou and City. Yeah. Have we, not only is it a nickname, but now there's a gap in between it. And is it socially acceptable for us to put a gap in there from, you know what I mean?
Was Lou City ever not spaced?
I've seen it with no space in it.
I've never seen it like that, ever.
Really?
I mean,
aside from my Twitter handle, which can't have spaces,
okay,
I've never seen it like that.
I've seen it. It just a straight word.
Okay. You're right. Yeah, that's a good point. Is that the only time I've ever noticed it is on Twitter. Literally, or maybe on Facebook, but I've never seen the logo with. I've never, I don't even know what the logo looks like without it. I don't know. It's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, the stars being cut off was a big deal for a lot of people. Right. It bugged me too.
It bugged the shit out of me.
And the initial,
I like that kind of. It looks. I don't know.
They had to fill it. There's black space. they had to fill that because there was too much empty space. But and then somebody put out a design that had it filling the space without the stars cut off. It looked fine. I didn't think that it had too much black space.
As well. I like that the elements just kind of flowed together that way.
Yeah, and you had to to fill it up.
It's personal taste, I guess.
The fleur-de-lis, the fleur-de-lis that are on that logo, I've always been a fan of that style fleur-de-lis.
Okay.
The really it's like a hard fleur-de-lis.
Yeah,
it's not the rounded.
I would point
it looks like it's metal. Or
I would point
Yeah.
at that, but I don't want you to think that I'm trying to touch your nipple.
You can do that if you want to. You mean these? which are not actually near my nipples.
Nice.
That's more like the top of the gut region.
It's all about perspective.
My main complaint about this logo.
What is that? It's too close to Matt's nipples.
Yes, but
I'm sorry, I'm being an idiot.
with the 2 stars on it, you look like Kamala.
It's my third class.
But that's a wrestling.
Yes,
heard him
Kamala.
referenced
Remember
way too
Kamala?
much lately.
All you need is a moon right there, and you're good.
Yeah, let's not do that.
But okay, so my main complaint.
I think I'd get in a lot of trouble if I did that.
Well, other people brought this up,
Okay.
but not as many people as I suspected that brought it up.
Right.
That looks like a home plate at baseball.
Yes, it does.
I thought that was an Easter egg.
And I'm like, and several people, especially, our neighbors up north, they were like, it looks like a home plate, so they just can't drop the baseball.
I'm going to jump in right here. I am absolutely 100% not interested in caring about what anybody else says about anything except us. I absolutely don't give a flying crap about people in Cincinnati.
Oh, I didn't care.
That doesn't mean that I don't think there's good things going on there, or there's not good people, or that I don't enjoy the banter thing. That's not the point. I can give a flying F about what people think about us.
Right.
I don't care. This comes from
a lot of people really care, though.
Right. Well, and that's fine.
They want to see Louisville get represented.
But the point being is that I'm different like that. So I try to listen to. The reason I'm like that is because I grew up making a living playing music, and I think I've even said this on the show once, that there was a time when I was starting out. There was one gig that I did in town where the bouncer was heckling me, and I need this money to eat, because I'm living in a little tiny place and the rent is ridiculous. You learn how to grow thick skin. The point I'm trying to make is, I don't want to seem insensitive to that. I understand where I'm at with that. I'm brutally pragmatic. But I don't care what other people think. I'm sorry, and that's where I come from with that. So I'm not saying I'm right. No. I'm just saying that's where I come from with that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people took it as an opportunity to troll us, and that's fine. But
fine.
But I see the baseball plate. I see home plate.
The douches in Indiana. Whoever runs the Indy 11 Twitter feed. Hey, obviously you're 19 years old and you haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah, it's pretty. I saw some of that.
Was
I'm like,
dumb. Like you just for whatever you said. First of all, graduate high school. Figure that out first, and then.
What did they say?
I don't remember. It was just bad.
They were trying to quit back.
Yeah, and it was just like what?
Yeah.
It,
I wasn't impressed.
So Indy 11's account person, get through high school, clear up your zit problem, and then and then you can get back to doing whatever you're doing here. Or keep doing that so we can keep chewing your butt.
Yeah, you all haven't done enough in this league yet to talk shit.
Hear that?
So.
Grab a star, then you can talk. So that's where I'm at with this. I really don't have anything else. The point I wanted to make is that blacks. And I mentioned this again. Mike Scouse called me before. He said, make sure to tell everybody that we're 100% behind the front office. We're 100% behind everything they're doing. So that's and Mike that's his section over there. So he's good with it. Matt Dalton. I talked to Eric Belmonte. Eric said, the Black Sheep. They're good to go. Let's just move on. I'm ready to move on from this. Yeah. I spent so much brain energy on this that I could have spent, I don't know, watching porn or something. I have no idea what I could have done with that time, but I was tired of talking about this stuff.
I was tired when people got mad at me for Boozy the Bear.
Boozy the Bear is the greatest idea ever.
Those people wore me out.
Boozy the Bear is the best. What do you think about Boozy the Bear? You'd want to be Boozy the Bear, wouldn't you?
Either Boozy or Bear, or do you remember the Duffland thing from The Simpsons where they had the different beer bottles? I would like to be Surly.
I do remember. Oh my gosh, that was a while ago.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Gosh.
I've been looking on Amazon.com for panda bear costumes, by the way.
But I'm going to say that I totally love the passion as a supporter to see everybody so wound up that they care about it that much.
Yeah.
So the arguing, and the yelling and whatever, do it. I'm not. That's not the point. I think people should be passionate about it. We've moved on. If you're going to keep beating the dead horse, that's on you. If you want to chew on that and unless you really enjoy people thinking you're a douche, keep doing it. I mean, because that's what people are going to think you are.
Yeah, don't be so polarizing, guys.
Just let it go. Join. Have fun. What is wrong with having some fun? What is wrong with being positive for 5 minutes?
It is okay to have a little joy in your life.
Yes.
We promise we won't tell.
Let it go. I didn't, like I said, the thing that really bugged me out after like about 24 hours was the name of the team. That wasn't everybody, but that was me. Everybody. There was people that were upset. There's people still like, man, I wish we still had the gold.
I don't care about the gold.
I didn't care about the gold, but people do. So I respect that. You know what I'm saying? I respect that people cared about that. It's just how far you take it and what you need to do to make sure people are paying attention to you. If you want to be that person, be that person. I'm telling you something. There's going to be 99% of us that, 6 months from now, we're not going to remember this. Right. We're going to move on. Yeah. That first time that we sing My Old Kentucky Home in the stadium.
Oh, man.
I guarantee you, no one's going to stop and be like, hey, remember the time they came up with that logo? No one's going to do that. You know who's going to do that? A douche. Mm-hmm. Somebody that's looking for attention. So you can get your attention that way.
But it's okay. We'll drown them out back in a pond.
In a pond. Anyway, can I grab that bottle, please?
Well, certainly.
I just, these time. Oh, yeah. Shauna made a couple comments. Like, I didn't mean that the logo should be trendy.
Right.
I mean that there's a certain way that graphic design evolves, and there's a certain way that people's eyes hit things and read things now, and it's based on culture and the things you see on TV and everything else. Like design, you can't just slap something on a piece of paper and make it work. It needs to work with the times. I don't want it to be trendy. I want it to be unique, very unique.
It's like with the icons on your cell phone. There was the bubbly thing, and there was like the flat look, and now everything's on fire. Yeah. Although that might just be a problem with my phone. I don't know.
And I think one of the things that somebody mentioned, you might have told me this, is that way too many people are doing round logos.
Yes, there's a lot of round logos going on.
But that's why people are doing round logos, because they work on everything. Mm-hmm. Okay. We've got bourbon barrel heads.
So round logos are just completely uninspired. I mean,
they're
just awful.
I mean, we've got bourbon barrel heads. We've got drums. We've got the soccer balls round. I mean, most of this stuff is round. And it's excellent for marketing purposes, especially if the team wants to go for some kind of, like an alcohol grab, like they want one of those alcohol sponsors. Hey, round is the way to go. Right. Everything is round in the alcohol world.
You just brought up something.
Except the Angel's empty bottle.
And you've got except the Angel, yeah.
Guess which bottle I buy?
Oh man,
because I'm like that.
But it really a circle around is a really great shape for a logo for Louisville. Like it just is based on the stuff that we have here. What is it? Charlotte Independence. I was looking at their logo today.
Yeah, okay.
That's a cool logo.
Soon to be defunct, I bet.
And
a couple years.
Oh yeah. But that logo's cool, and it represents Charlotte. It's a badge. It's a true badge. And that's what Charlotte needs. And there's other teams too. Well, of course Red Bull has the Red Bull can logo, but it's you can see it, like you can see the city in those logos. St. Louis, and I did a reproduction of this logo, and it was a circle, and I did it based on what I thought the team's specs were for a logo. Like they wanted this, they wanted this, they wanted that, and the colors and everything. So I did the circle logo, and if you look, and somebody mentioned this, I think it was Liza that mentioned this. St. Louis's logo, I didn't realize, I paid no attention to any other logos when I did the circle logo. Okay. St. Louis's logo looks very similar to the logo I made.
Okay.
And I looked and I'm like, oh, you're right. And
it's a good design. And
it is a good design. St. Louis has
I said something nice about St. Louis.
It's aesthetically. No, everything they do aesthetically is pleasing.
Yeah.
I finish your thoughts.
But yeah, it's stuff like that. And St. Louis has a very minimalist design, and it looks really good. Nashville, I loved their circle logo. I thought that it was a great logo. It's probably one of my top 5 in the league. Just they did it. It was real clean.
Which one?
Nashville, their circle logo.
Yeah, the inside is weird. And I try to explain to people,
it's this cut in,
right,
and it's got the what is it, in Roman numerals, the date that the city was founded at the bottom.
Right.
It's a cool circular logo, and it's a minimalist logo.
Right.
And that's design right now is minimalism, and people are doing it right. But those are my thoughts. I hope I'm not rambling, but I'm really passionate about design. I know I'm not in the design field anymore, but I still freelance and I still really enjoy doing it.
Well, and there's something else that you mentioned that I want to go back on, and that is you start talking about financial support. Look, I am all about making sure that the team is answerable to the fan base. They should be. We're the ones that pay the bills, okay? But at the same time, in order for them to pay the bills, they may create partnerships to help them pay the bills. Get over it. If you don't like the partnerships that's going on behind, I'm not talking about the marketing thing. I'm not even talking about. I'm way past
I know what you're saying.
If you struggle with some of the things that the front office does to make sure that they can pay the bills, so you can show up and bitch about it, that's on you. Yep. Keep bitching about it.
You know why they're going for an alcohol grab? Because alcohol is one of the most financially stable and exuberant, and it's the biggest money-making enterprise in the world.
Why do you think Vegas is as financially supported as they are? One of their sponsors is who? It's a company that literally sells dope. Okay, because marijuana.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I mean, because marijuana is legal there. So if you have let's say, like, if you're one of these people that's a far right person that has a problem with imbibing and whatever, get over yourself. Don't. If you're a far left person that has a problem with chicken, get over it. The whole point is that they're doing whatever they have to do to make sure that they're creating as solid a financial base as they possibly can, so we can have all these nice toys like a new stadium.
And there's going to be times where they just can't afford to care about how you feel.
Right, and if you and you have recourse as a supporter. And this is the last thing I'm going to say about this before we get on to I don't mean to interrupt you, Matt.
I'm good.
You have recourse. We proved today that we have recourse. A bunch of people stood up, and it was a lot of people said, "Look, this doesn't work. This brand does not work for us. It's bad. We have recourse." And in this particular issue, the front office listened, and they said, this is not cool as far as what they did. Let's move on.
Name another team that's done that.
Right. It's just,
name another team where
the front office literally said, okay, we're wrong.
Yeah. Our FO came forward and said, yeah, we made a mistake. Let's fix it.
If there are other things.
Name another one.
Right. I'm sorry. And if there's other things that you don't like about who their sponsors are, be it a stupid friggin' chicken biscuit or a bottle of whiskey. I'm talking about both sides here. I'm not picking sides on this.
Right.
Okay, because there's people on one side that don't like the fact that people drink, which is insane to me. And then there's people on the other side that are mad about a chicken biscuit because whoever the company is belongs to some whatever. They're just as crazy to me. I just whatever. The point is that they've got to do whatever they've got to do to get paid so we can have the experience that we do. And if you don't like it, engage in your recourse. Protest. Don't show up. Send them letters. Do whatever it is. But the choices you make affect you.
Don't get Snickers as
Not
a sponsor
us.
because I'm allergic to peanuts.
Right. The choices that you make in the long run are going to affect you. And that's my point. So that's a method. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Nope.
All right. So do we have any parting, do we have any rim shots that we want to do that has nothing to do with this or anything else?
United States indoor soccer still can't beat Mexico.
Well, okay.
I have one, and I said it the last show 2 weeks ago. Seasonal depression is a very important issue. I know there are people that really struggle with this, and there's a lot of shame still, unfortunately, as a person that has, and I've mentioned this, I've dealt with OCD, I've dealt with depression, I continue to. If you need help, get it. There's no shame in it. There's nothing wrong with it. We have professionals. There are people who literally have professionals that can help you within our community. There are hotlines. There's numbers. Go out there and get them. Don't let that stop you from enjoying the season. Speaking of the season, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever, to everybody that whatever you're doing.
I like the winter
Happy
solstice.
Saturnalia, happy
Winter
Yule.
solstice.
Winter solstice, whatever it is that you do, enjoy the hell out of it.
Have a good Festivus.
Festivus is great. If you Festivus for the rest of us.
Happy Kwanzaa.
Kwanzaa, good for you. Enjoy Kwanzaa.
There's got to be more.
Do we say Hanukkah? We said Hanukkah.
You said Hanukkah.
Right. So
Yep.
that's all I got, man. What do you got? Anything else?
So we did get some bad news from international leagues. It looks like Limerick FC finally folded. That was Sean Russell's team that he was having all the trouble with.
That's right.
From the way he's talking, he's probably also going to end up retiring and moving on to something else. Really nice guy, and we just want to wish him well in whatever comes next.
He got all his injuries squared away, right?
He did get
the surgery that he needed.
I
but
think he's rehabbing now. I don't know for sure.
But now you got a kid that, because his club folded, which Ireland, I mean, I know Martin French, who I need to talk to about this, because I know he's all over it. Ireland's football federation is a mess. I mean, we talk about ours. They're a freaking train wreck. And you have a kid that literally lost. In this country, if you play for MLS and you're injured, you're good. They're going to take care of you. You can't say that they won't take care of you. They will. Yeah. Over there, not so much. And not just in Ireland. There's a bunch of countries that, if you get hurt playing for some club, and now that club's defunct, you're done. Bye-bye.
They stiffed him initially.
Yeah, exactly.
They wouldn't even pay him initially.
So, we talked a little bit in the beginning about, the mini marathon stuff. Hopefully you'll join. Hopefully you'll kick in with that. Unless you guys got anything else. This has been an amazing show. Coach Hackworth was fantastic. He put up with us.
Nice to stay so long when he's busy, too.
Right.
Man, he was that leg.
Yeah.
He's struggling.
Yep.
Right. So we got Mario Sanchez coming up next month. We also have another guest. We're just trying to nail the date down.
It'll be a memorable
You're going
guest.
to love the guest.
Mm-hmm.
It is going to be fantastic. Please trust me on this one and trust us. It's going to be a wonderful. So just
definitely
keep your eyes open for that. Have a Merry Christmas. I'm going to say Merry Christmas to the people that did Christmas. Mm-hmm. If you're enjoying Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever it is that you're enjoying, enjoy your holidays. And just have fun, man. Have fun. This world is full of bad things. You can make a choice to follow the bad, or you can make a choice to engage in the good. And I hope you engage in the good. I got nothing else.
And if somebody wishes you a merry or a happy something you don't celebrate, you just say thanks, you too, because it was intended in a spirit of friendship and kindness.
Exactly. Good is good.
Good is good.
Good is good.
Love you guys. We're going to be back in
good night,
soon.
everybody.
You just follow us. Thank you, and good night.